So every day, we keep hearing words like, I get too many emails, I'm inundated with information, so much, all of our kids have a lot of screen time, and just constant complaints of just a digital overload, right? We even talk about the fact that we need a digital detox. I want to go on a Sabbath where I have no technology. So why is that, right? Well, that's because to date, the whole digital revolution and technology revolution has focused on basically people like those in this room today. Essentially, knowledge workers or white-collar workers in the world. But for the remaining 80% of the world's workforce, so these are your construction workers, people in a factory, in a coffee shop, in hotels and so on, their lives have so far been relatively untouched by technology. They've not benefited from this massive digital revolution that all of us have. But in 2016, all of this started to change. Thanks to the Chinese manufacturers, primarily, smartphone prices started to crash. And a lot of the telcos built on top of that and started lowering data plans, which meant that 2 billion people in the world started plugging into this digital ecosystem. So these are, again, your blue or gray collar workforce in the world. So what does this mean? So for example, walk outside at 6 o'clock to a construction site near where you live or work. I mean, in Singapore, there's probably one like next door, right? And what you'll see is a line of construction workers sitting on the side waiting for their truck to pick them up. Now, whether this worker is from Burma or Bangladesh, India or Indonesia, there'll be one sight that's common. They'll all be crouched around a smartphone, typically getting some entertainment relief from the day, talking to their families, or doing something, but they will all be on their smartphone. Now, this is not a site that's just in Singapore. You go anywhere in Southeast Asia, in India, in the Middle East, for that matter, anywhere in the world, and this is becoming a very common phenomenon. So that last photo is actually a tuk-tuk driver in Bangalore, and there's a smartphone. Now, if you've taken one in Thailand, it's probably the same. Coffee shops, factories, this phenomena is everywhere now. But what are they doing on the phones? So if you think about the most fundamental need that we have as humans, this is the need for human connection. This is for connecting with our friends, our families, and so on. And the companies like Facebook, apps like WhatsApp, Instagram, et cetera, have built this rocket ship just by satisfying that need. You can be anywhere, and you can be in touch with your families, see real time what your friends are doing, and connect with them on a human level. Now, especially for this demographic, this thing is growing so fast that companies and apps like ShareChat and Hello, which have just launched in India and have gotten 50 million active users in just a few months. And in fact, these two apps don't even have an English language offering. I tried using it the other day. I can do it in Bengali, Tamil, Telugu, no English. But they have 50 million users and growing quite rapidly. That's the need for this. So this problem is sort of getting solved already through all these people. But beyond this, there's very, very little that's still solved. This is still a huge blue ocean of opportunities, considering this whole movement is only a few years old. So let's start with jobs. And let's take our friend Salim. Salim is a general worker in construction, let's say in Singapore. Do you know how much Salim makes a day? So Salim makes $20 a day in Singapore. I hope that number surprises you, because it definitely surprised me when I heard it. That's not a typo. He makes $20 a day for working in the sun, doing all that hard work every day. In Singapore, Dubai, it doesn't vary a whole lot. And in order to get this job, Salim paid an agent a certain amount of money. Take a guess how much he would have paid to get that job. In India, the rate right now for the first-time person who comes to Singapore is about 4 lakh rupees, or that's about 8,000 Singapore dollars, okay? So 8,000 Singapore dollars, $20 a day, okay? You can see it's going to take Salim more than a year to repay that. He would have taken a loan in order to obviously pay that $8,000, often from a loan shark at high interest rates. And in many countries, a lot of these is actually controlled by the mafia because of the amount of money that's actually involved. But what technology is really, really good at doing is cutting out the middleman. It's excellent at basically bridging all of this information gap that happens, and it's also brilliant at scaling really, really fast. And so companies, such as ours and others, are starting to build technology to help people find these jobs faster. Platforms like WhatsApp and Facebook and others are allowing you to build tools on top of them, which basically then gives you immediate access, because all these people are already on those platforms, to then solve many of these problems. So for example, in Valet, Salim can just come, chat, send a few of his personal details, upload his certificates, tell us about the skills that he has, and minutes, we can match him with a job. That's it. Chat and get a job. Now, we still can't help Salim make more than $20 a day, but we can definitely cut out almost all of those $8,000 that he spent to get that job. Personal growth. So whether you're Salim or a barista or a Uber or Grab driver, you always want to improve your life. You don't want to keep making less money. Who does, right? And the biggest way to do that is through education. But most of these people work in jobs where they only have fragments of time. Imagine a construction worker, right? Or imagine even your own Grab driver or people like that. You have fragments of time. You're on your feet all day. And it's not like your company is spending the amount of money to upskill you, give you leadership coaching, communication skills, and all of that, like all of us take for granted in the workplaces that we're in. So how does somebody like this grow? So what's actually needed to solve this problem is a nice curated set of training content, educational content, preferably delivered in their native language, in bite-sized pieces that can be sort of consumed anytime, anywhere, wherever there's fragments of time. So if you take this app, for example, Salim can get on his truck at the end of the day, because he has a 45-minute drive to his dormitory, let's not forget. And in that 45 minutes, pulls out the phone, taps a few buttons, and in 10 minutes maybe upskills himself for that day. Obviously, it builds over time. In 10 small minutes, he basically upskills himself on maybe how to save money better, maybe how to get a better skill, such as getting a new lorry certificate so that he can now get a higher paid job in construction, or maybe learn conversational English so that he can again become a supervisor from just being a general worker. If all of this builds on, you can totally see how this whole workforce grows and becomes better and better. Money. Obviously, one of the most important things for everybody, in particular for this workforce. All of us, whether you're a white-collar worker or a blue-collar worker, get paid monthly, right? In America, you sometimes get paid fortnightly, but that's about it. And in the good old days, you got paid in cash. This is only a couple of years back. That's how fast this is all changing, right? Today, even blue-collar workers typically get paid directly to their bank. I won't even cover that, because that's, again, because of digital banking account opening, where they can open accounts very quickly. But that's moving at a pace which is amazing. But even beyond that, now they have a digital bank account, but they still get paid monthly, okay? We may not have cash flow issues, but imagine somebody who makes very little amount of money every month. If there's a family emergency or the sudden need, now they're lost again because they have to wait for a month. They may take a loan, and then now again that puts them onto that same thing that we're trying to get them to avoid. Okay, so how do I get paid faster? Well, typically, whether it's a time card or proof that you completed some job and things like that, they're all analog. You fill a time card. Maybe now there's fingerprints, things like that. But there are many people building apps which allow people to clock in digitally, report to work, track your time, and track the job that you did and how much of the job you finished, so that you can get paid in faster increments. Let's say I finished 25% of the job in a week, a month's worth of work. Why can't I get paid every week? Why can't I get paid by each job that I do, right? One hat tip here to our friends in, let's say, the Gojeks and Grabs and all of them, who actually pay their drivers daily, every 2 days, or in much more frequent intervals for the jobs that they do. But this sort of thing is spreading, or soon will spread, to the rest of the blue-collar world as well. It's still not there, so these are all open opportunities, many of these. And even if they're there, it's all in its nascent stages. But I'm just hoping to inspire some of the thinking along this, right? Why does somebody have to get paid monthly? Now let's take the story of Jen, moving quickly from Salim to Jen. So Jen is actually our helper. She loves our daughter. We have a 3-year-old, and she's fantastic with her. Now Jen has a daughter of her own. She's in university. She broke her phone, and Jen now needs to buy her a new smartphone. What does Jen do today? Today, typically Jen picks up the phone, calls her mother, her friends, etc., in wherever she's from, and has a conversation on what to buy, where to buy, if they'll help buy and deliver it to her daughter, and then she remits money over, let's say $100. Obviously, as you know, a lot of that goes away in remittance fees, and whatever is remaining gets delivered to the family, may not end up being used to buy that phone. Some of it may be, but some of it may not be. Jen obviously wants the phone to be bought, right? But she has very little control over it sitting here in Singapore. But again, thanks to beautiful technology, now you may think, hey, maybe there are e-commerce websites out there. Yes, they may be in some of these countries. They may not be. But even if they do exist, they may not deliver to your tier 3, tier 4 towns, which a lot of these people are from. So companies today are building platforms that now connect people like Jen directly to that small hometown retailer who sells phones, and Jen can pay that in Singapore dollars here, and the phone gets delivered in the Philippines or in Bangladesh or in India or wherever that is the next day. So this is where the beauty of, again, bridging all of these gaps using technology comes in. So Jen knows she's buying a phone, what she's buying, what her daughter's going to get, and she gets it immediately, and she pays in Singapore dollars, right? So there's a lot of this also going on. I wanted to highlight this story because it's going viral in Singapore, and I hope you all know about it. If not, I wanted to educate you on this. So a few days back, a construction worker tragically died in an accident in Novena, one of the construction sites. A crane collapsed on him. It was completely, a freak accident. But actually, one of the TED speakers from last year launched this campaign through her organization, and this happened on the 5th of November. Today is the 9th. In 4 days, this campaign has raised $158,000. So Singapore came together to raise $158,000 in just 4 days, only due to the power of technology. It's an extremely tragic story, but what I wanted to highlight was that how technology really, really can put a glimmer of hope in even things like this. In fact, the comment I just saw as I was waiting upstairs to come down, I was still tracking this page, was actually another worker who contributed $20 to this campaign, which is extremely inspiring if you think about it. And obviously, he has access to the technology, which is why he was able to do that to begin with, right? But this is just literally the beginning, right? We are just scratching the surface. We talked about jobs, we talked about education, we talked about remittances, money, buying goods, but this is just still at the very, very nascent stages. How does somebody get a loan? I don't have collateral. I don't make a whole lot of money, so the banks don't care about me necessarily. That's changing, but not necessarily. But so how do I get a loan? I still make money every month. Somebody should be able to give me at least a little bit of loan without me having to go to a loan shark. How do I educate my children? How do I improve my health? I always joke about this. This puts a smile on my face every time because all of our smartwatches tell us, stand up, take a break. How many of yours does that, right? I mean, if you have an Apple Watch, it definitely does that. But what a typical blue-collar worker needs is the exact opposite, right? Because he's on his feet all day. Somebody needs to tell him to do the opposite. Sit down, take a break, drink more water, do all of the other things that maybe it's related to weather so that people can predict all of these things. I mean, we're just scratching the surface of this. There's lots to be done here. So, it's very, very clear that we live in this completely transformative moment in history, in time, where 2-3 billion people very, very rapidly are getting onto this digital ecosystem and digital world. But this is not a flashy one, right? It's a very silent one. You don't hear it in the newspaper every day. You definitely don't see it in your news, your Facebook feeds, your Twitter feeds. None of this lights up. But there's this whole movement which is going on today. But it's a silent, non-flashy one. But it's here to stay, and it's going to impact all of our lives one way or the other. So basically, the only question left for all of us is what role will we play in this, and what role will you play? Thank you very much.